They smile politely, not in celebration, yet a quiet judgment lingers beneath the surface. When others succeed, when fortune smiles, when life seems fair, the mind sometimes murmurs, why them? This is not always envy, nor always malice. It is something subtler, deeper, and profoundly human. The act of judging others' good fortune is intertwined with self-perception, expectation, and the fragile architecture of identity. It reflects insecurities, unspoken comparison, and the tension between admiration and resentment. Each thought, unnoticed or unspoken, shapes relationships' perception, and even one's own capacity for joy. This story explores the psychology of quietly judging others' luck, why the mind compares silently, how internal narratives distort perception of fairness, and how awareness can transform hidden judgment into reflection, empathy, and understanding. The world is full of achievements, celebrations, and milestones. A friend receives a promotion, a neighbor buys a new home, a colleague wins recognition. On the surface, the mind smiles, nods, and congratulates. Beneath the polite acknowledgement, a quieter process unfolds. Comparison begins almost imperceptibly. The mind notes difference, theirs versus yours, abundance versus limitation, success versus struggle. Subtle metrics emerge: wealth, beauty, recognition, opportunity, each a silent ruler against which the self is measured. Even fleeting observation triggers reflection: am I as successful, as deserving, as fortunate? Judgment is not always conscious. It can be as gentle as noticing discrepancy or as sharp as internal criticism. The mind interprets fairness, equity, and deservedness through personal lens. Did they earn this? Is this right? Why not me? The questions are both self-referential and relational, blending introspection with assessment of others. Insecurity amplifies comparison. Uncertainty about personal worth or achievement heightens sensitivity to others' fortune. A promotion is no longer neutral, it is a reflection of potential deficiency, a mirror for unacknowledged desires or fears. Happiness in others' success is filtered through the lens of self-evaluation. The mind also evaluates opportunity and effort. Did they work harder, or did fortune simply favor them? This evaluation is subtle but persistent. Even admiration is tinged with assessment, the balance of recognition and critique shifting imperceptibly. Internal ranking fosters tension. The mind oscillates between appreciation, envy, and subtle resentment. A friend's joy may inspire, yet simultaneously evoke unease, highlighting perceived disparity or limitation in the self. The quieter the judgment, the more insidious it is, unspoken, unnoticed by others, yet shapes emotional landscape. Social and cultural context magnifies comparison. Achievement is rarely measured in isolation, it is evaluated against family, peers, and societal norms. The mind unconsciously references benchmarks, income status, relationships, creating a sense of inequity even when objectively irrelevant. Judgment becomes a mirror of the self as much as a reflection of the other. The quiet comparison is paradoxical. It arises from awareness and engagement, yet it often distorts perception. The mind both admires and critiques, celebrates and questions, acknowledges and doubts. In this subtle interplay lies the root of hidden judgment, a dynamic of attention, evaluation, and self-reflection that rarely surfaces but always influences experience. Ultimately, the mind's quiet comparison is a deeply human phenomenon. It emerges not from cruelty but from instinct, insecurity, and relational awareness. By observing it, the individual begins to understand the origin, patterns, and impact of subtle judgment, a first step toward reflection, empathy, and conscious engagement with both self and others. Judgment often has deep roots, entwined with the soil of early experience. Before the mind could articulate envy or comparison, it absorbed subtle messages about worth, fairness, and success. A sibling praised while another was overlooked. A parent's disappointment when effort fell short. A child learns early that attention, affection, and reward are measured and sometimes scarce. Patterns of comparison are reinforced at school and in friendships. Children observe who receives recognition, who is admired, who is invited. Even without overt criticism, the mind internalizes a quiet ranking of value. The seeds of judgment are sown in these early impressions. Deservingness is conditional, success is finite, recognition is scarce. Cultural narratives shape perception further. Society often celebrates achievement, wealth, and status, reinforcing implicit competition. The individual observes disparity and inequity and begins to construct an internal ledger: who is fortunate, who is not, and how this reflects on self. The mind calculates silently, noting inequities while trying to understand fairness in a complex world. Early experiences with fairness or lack thereof leave lasting impressions. When effort does not match reward, when effort is ignored, when others are celebrated disproportionately, a child may develop subtle resentment. This resentment is not always conscious, but it quietly informs perception of others' success in adulthood. Judgment is the echo of unresolved iniquity, a strategy to reconcile fairness with emotion. Family dynamics often intensify these patterns. Sibling rivalry, favoritism, or parental expectation creates implicit hierarchies. The child learns to monitor others' achievements, comparing silently, noting advantage and weighing worth. These behaviors, adaptive in early life, become latent mechanisms for evaluating fortune in later relationships. Social modeling amplifies subtle judgment. Adults mirror the comparisons they witnessed as children. Comments about luck, reward, or opportunity, even in passing, reinforce the association between others' success and personal evaluation. Observation of peers, colleagues, and acquaintances extends early patterns into the adult social sphere. The roots of resentment reveal a paradox. Early adaptations monitoring fairness, anticipating inequity, evaluating effort, were protective and normative. They allowed the child to navigate social hierarchies, secure attention, and understand expectations. Yet in adulthood, these same patterns can become hidden scripts that color perception, breeding quiet judgment of others' fortune. Awareness of these origins is revealing. Recognizing that subtle resentment stems from childhood observation and internalized comparison allows reflection without blame. The mind begins to see judgment as an echo of learned patterns rather than innate malice. From this understanding comes the possibility of insight, compassion, and recalibration of perception. Ultimately, the roots of hidden judgment are entwined with experience, expectation, and adaptation. They reflect the human mind's effort to make sense of fairness, scarcity, and reward. By tracing these roots, the individual begins to separate inherited comparison from conscious appraisal, creating space for empathy, gratitude, and measured observation of others' good fortune. The mind is efficient, but not always accurate. It uses shortcuts, cognitive biases to navigate complexity, often at the expense of nuance. When observing others' good fortune, these shortcuts can subtly distort reality, reinforcing quiet judgment. Attribution errors are central. The mind judges others' success by interpreting cause, often inaccurately. If a colleague receives a promotion, the mind asks, did they earn it, or was it luck? If a friend enjoys a relationship or material comfort, it questions, did they work for it, or was it given freely? The answers, often imagined, create a distorted lens through which fortune is assessed. Fairness bias intensifies scrutiny. The brain seeks equilibrium. Reward should match effort. Luck should be proportionate to need, and recognition should be deserved. When reality diverges from expectation, tension arises. If someone appears undeserving, subtle judgment is triggered. The mind evaluates equity and moral legitimacy, quietly ranking the other against internal standards. The spotlight effect amplifies self-reference. Observing others' fortune often triggers self-conscious comparison. How does this reflect on me? Am I lacking? Attention shifts inward, even as judgment is directed outward. The mind measures perceived inadequacy and constructs narratives to reconcile emotion with observation. Negativity and contrast bias reinforce critique. Minds are drawn to discrepancies, losses, and disparities. Others' success is magnified when personal gaps or unmet desires are salient. The more salient the contrast, the more acute the internal evaluation, and the more judgment arises. Cognitive shortcuts operate subtly and automatically. Judgment is rarely a conscious choice. It is the mind's attempt to simplify complexity, anticipate fairness, and make sense of relational and social hierarchies. Yet these shortcuts often sacrifice compassion, perspective, and accuracy, producing distorted interpretations of others' lives. Even admiration is tinged with distortion. Positive feelings coexist with skepticism, doubt, and covert evaluation. The mind can celebrate achievement while simultaneously questioning legitimacy, effort, or worthiness. The duality is quietly maintained, largely invisible to external observation, yet shaping emotional experience profoundly. Awareness of these biases creates space for clarity. Recognizing the role of attribution errors, fairness bias, and contrast perception allows reflection on why judgment arises and how perception diverges from objective reality. The mind can begin to disentangle automatic assessment from conscious appraisal, distinguishing instinctive critique from reasoned evaluation. Ultimately, cognitive distortions reveal that hidden judgment is less moral failing than perceptual artifact. The mind, seeking fairness, predictability, and comprehension, applies heuristics that inadvertently generate subtle critique. Understanding these mechanisms illuminates the psychological architecture behind quiet envy and judgment, opening the door to empathy, balance, and perspective. Beneath quiet judgment lies emotion subtle, often unacknowledged yet powerful. Envy is the most familiar companion, a flicker of desire tinged with comparison. It is rarely explosive or overt. It is measured, polite, and restrained, yet persistent. The mind watches others' fortune with a blend of admiration and discomfort. Insecurity colors perception. When the self feels uncertain, inadequate, or unworthy, another's success is a mirror reflecting perceived deficiency. A promotion, a celebration, or a seemingly effortless achievement triggers quiet anxiety. Am I enough? Am I doing as well? Judgment arises as the mind attempts to reconcile discomfort, framing fortune in ways that maintain equilibrium, deserving, lucky, or unearned. Self-doubt amplifies the effect. The mind questions personal capability and worthiness, projecting unresolved uncertainty onto external observation. Others' achievements are scrutinized, rationalized, or quietly critiqued as a coping mechanism for internal tension. The judgment is protective. It softens the blow of comparison by externalizing evaluation. Mixed emotions coexist in subtle interplay. Admiration and envy, respect and critique, curiosity and doubt, all are woven together in perception of others' success. The mind experiences these emotions silently, quietly calibrating status, equity, and relational positioning. Happiness for others can be genuine yet tempered by self-reflection, highlighting tension between empathy and personal evaluation. Social conditioning reinforces emotional response. Cultural emphasis on competition, achievement, and scarcity teaches the mind to compare, measure, and evaluate. Even without conscious desire to judge, emotional response is guided by learned patterns: vigilance toward fairness, sensitivity to disparity, and internal assessment of merit. These responses are automatic, habitual, and deeply embedded. The paradox is central: the mind both desires connection and fairness, yet struggles with simultaneous acknowledgement of others' success. Emotion drives judgment not as hostility, but as protective reflection, attempting to maintain self-worth, understanding, and coherence in a world of visible achievement. Awareness of emotional underpinnings creates possibility for insight. Noticing envy, insecurity, or self-doubt allows reflection. Is this my feeling or a projection? Does it require judgment or understanding? Recognition softens response, uncouples automatic evaluation from conscious engagement, and opens space for empathy. Ultimately, emotional underpinnings reveal that hidden judgment is not cruelty, it is a response to vulnerability. The mind, attentive to fairness and personal worth, navigates observation with caution, curiosity, and protective instinct. Understanding emotion is the gateway to transforming quiet judgment into conscious awareness, balanced perspective, and empathetic connection. Judgment rarely remains internal, it quietly shapes the ways people relate to others. A polite smile, a congratulatory nod, or a supportive word can coexist with subtle evaluation, comparison, or critique. The mind navigates relationships cautiously, balancing admiration with internal measurement. Subtle comparison becomes a relational pattern. Conversations may turn to achievements, possessions, or life milestones, not out of curiosity, but as benchmarks. Questions are asked not just for connection, but to measure alignment with personal standards. The mind tracks disparity, noting difference while maintaining the appearance of neutrality or support. Passive critique often accompanies observation. Words, tone, or nuance may imply evaluation rather than celebration. A remark intended as praise may be tinged with judgment. Well, they finally managed that. Even unspoken expressions, eye contact, hesitation, or body language, can convey assessment. Others rarely notice these cues, yet they influence relational dynamics and emotional climate. Relational tension can emerge quietly. The mind perceives disparity between self and others, and this perception shapes interaction: cautious distance, subtle defensiveness, or selective disclosure. Relationships are navigated with an undercurrent of evaluation: who deserves attention, who sets unrealistic standards, who benefits from fortune they may or may not deserve. Internal narratives reinforce relational patterns. The mind constructs stories: they got ahead because of luck, not effort, their success highlights my shortcomings. These stories subtly shape behavior: advice withheld, support limited, engagement restrained. The individual may maintain politeness while internally measuring, ranking, or rationalizing the fortune of others. Social comparison is amplified in group settings. Within families, friend circles, or workplaces, achievement and recognition become currency. The mind silently notes who succeeds, who struggles, and who aligns with personal expectations. Judgment operates both as a protective measure and as a method of self-assessment, calibrating one's own perceived standing in the social landscape. Yet these patterns are not purely negative. They reflect attentiveness, sensitivity, and the mind's effort to navigate fairness in social dynamics. Recognition of subtle influence allows for conscious recalibration, checking assumptions, softening critique, and fostering authentic engagement. Ultimately, social and relational patterns reveal that hidden judgment is relational as well as internal. It shapes conversation, interaction, and subtle behavior, coloring perception of others' fortune. Understanding these dynamics illuminates the way judgment moves silently through relationships, and how awareness can transform it into empathy, measured reflection, and authentic connection. Awareness is the first crack in the wall of judgment. It begins quietly, with noticing a flicker of irritation at another's success, a comparison that surfaces unbidden, a subtle questioning of fairness. Observation without blame transforms judgment from unconscious habit into conscious experience. Reflection allows the mind to examine its own patterns. Why did a friend's promotion feel threatening? Why did admiration carry a tinge of discomfort? These questions illuminate the internal narrative, revealing assumptions, insecurities, and learned habits that shape perception. automatic evaluation is exposed. The mind recognizes cognitive shortcuts, biases, and emotional triggers. What seemed objective, the assessment of luck, merit, or fairness, is often filtered through personal experience and internalized standards. Recognition of distortion creates space for choice to engage with the other's fortune consciously, rather than reactively. Perspective emerges through reflection. Understanding that envy, insecurity, and subtle judgment are common human responses softens self-critique. It also fosters empathy for others, recognizing that fortune and struggle are complex, multi-layered, and often invisible. The mind learns to separate observation from evaluation, presence from comparison. Awareness also highlights the mind's protective function. Judgment often arises not from malice but from concern for self-worth, belonging, and fairness. Acknowledging this intention reduces defensiveness, allowing for conscious decision-making rather than reflexive reaction. Reflection encourages emotional regulation. Noticing the stirrings of envy, insecurity, or resentment allows the individual to respond with curiosity rather than criticism. The mind pauses between stimulus and reaction, creating the possibility of empathy, appreciation, and balanced engagement. Ultimately, awareness and reflection transform judgment from invisible constraint into conscious insight. The individual learns to observe thought, emotion, and bias without being captive to them. Hidden judgment becomes a mirror for self-understanding, a lens for evaluating perception, and a gateway to more authentic connection. Through awareness, the mind begins to soften. Comparisons become observations, critique becomes curiosity, and evaluation becomes perspective. In this space, subtle judgment loses its grip and conscious choice enters, guiding perception toward empathy, clarity, and emotional balance. Judgment softens when met with awareness and intention. The mind begins to recognize the complexity behind others' fortune, effort, circumstance, luck, and unseen struggle. Fortune is no longer a mirror for inadequacy. It becomes an observation, neutral and balanced. Empathy emerges from understanding. The mind realizes that success and joy are neither threats nor reflections of personal failure. Others' achievements are part of a broader human experience, not a commentary on worth or deservingness. The quiet urge to compare transforms into curiosity, respect, and connection. Gratitude cultivates balance. Acknowledging one's own opportunities, strengths, and experiences shifts focus from scarcity to abundance. The mind appreciates its own journey without needing others to validate or diminish it. Happiness becomes less transactional, less comparative, and more anchored in presence and perspective. Compassion extends inward as well. Recognizing that subtle judgment was once a protective mechanism softens self-critique. The mind forgives its own reflexive envy, insecurity, and internal evaluation, understanding these responses as human, adaptive, and learned. Self-compassion and empathy toward others converge, creating a gentle alignment between perception and experience. Comparison loses its dominance. The mind learns to celebrate achievement without undermining personal fulfillment. Success in others becomes inspiration rather than threat. Joy becomes shared rather than measured. The quiet tension between admiration and envy relaxes, replaced by acceptance and recognition of life's complexity. Ultimately, empathy and gratitude transform hidden judgment into conscious reflection. The mind moves from assessment to appreciation, from critique to understanding. Relationships deepen, emotional tension eases, and perception becomes expansive rather than narrowly evaluative. In this space, fortune is neither resented nor coveted. It is observed, acknowledged, and integrated into a broader understanding of human experience. The mind discovers that allowing others' happiness does not diminish its own, and that awareness, compassion, and gratitude create fertile ground for both joy and connection. Hidden judgment, once automatic and constraining, becomes a tool for insight, reflection, and growth. The individual learns that observing fortune is not about measuring scarcity, it is about witnessing abundance, cultivating empathy, and embracing life with clarity and openness.